Hi, everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. I have decided to put together a little source, and this stream is dedicated to the lovely Lynne Robinson, who were Manningtree, just up the road. So I'm really excited about this. The more women doing the job, and especially, you know, people under a certain age, the better, really. So I guess I better start with saying who I am. I am Gemma Garwood. I was the town crier for Falmouth in Cornwall for just over a year, about a year and a half. And in that time, I learned a lot of lessons about shouting. That was my dog Molly just running through there, by the way. She might run backwards and forwards while we're doing this. I'm from a performance background and shouting, and when I started I was warming my voice up using lots of vocal techniques that I'd learned over the years for singing, and to be honest I did come a bit of a cropper, and I'm pretty sure that I did get vocal nodes at some point. Just to look after yourself, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the things that is going to help you regardless of whether you're singing or shouting or just doing public speaking is just good vocal hygiene. So drink plenty of water, keep yourself hydrated. I've got 2 glasses on the go here. This one's from the local Red Fox Brewery in Coggeshall. Shout out to them. They are absolutely fabulous. There are other breweries available though, obviously. This one's just a glass I have at home that I think is pretty. Another thing that you can do to really help yourself is to really keep your intake of dairy like to 0, especially on the day that you're shouting. And I would recommend maybe the day before and the day after, just to take care of yourself, because it doesn't help with your voice. And also things like coffee, tea, things that are going to dehydrate you. In order for your vocal cords to do their best job, they need to be hydrated. So make sure that you keep them hydrated, keep plenty of water with you. And the other thing that I really did ignore while I was on the streets of Falmouth was resting my voice afterwards. So what I was doing was quite intense. I was out once a week, every single week for that time. And I would be doing 3 different rounds of shouting, and each round would go through the whole for like half an hour at a time, and then talking to people in between, which you will find you have to do. But I think making sure that when you do talk to people, taking it down to a really low level will help you. Whispering if they'll let you. But I mean, it's a bit different for most town criers. They're not necessarily out on the street, but just guard against yourself there. If you are talking afterwards, if you're at an event afterwards and you have to do the talking, then please spend the rest of the day after that event in silence, possibly sometime the next morning. Rest is important. And if you do find things getting a bit clogged up, a good steam will help. Because I say again, it's different for shouting than it is for singing. So let's begin. Vocal exercises, if you're not familiar with them already, should absolutely be some of the silliest things that you do. I got to a point where I didn't really mind being seen doing them in public. I'd walk down the hill to work as a town crier, humming to myself, all sorts of silly things, and I didn't really care. But if you're not sort of almost making yourself laugh with the silliness of it, you're not doing it right. And how often do we really get a chance to be silly in real life? So I think that's a thing to be embraced. Quite often with these things, I will also maybe add a bit of movement, and I am doing this standing as well, because really grounding yourself, like bringing, it sounds really hippy dippy, but bringing energy up for the floor for your shout will help you. A good rock stance, nice wide feet, nice low center will definitely help you in this. But just to begin with, let's just relax our vocal cords a little bit. So I would always start with some just lovely, refreshing sighs. So nice big deep breaths in, and nice audible sighs out. And maybe, you know, sigh out of the window. Really send that sigh out into the world. And then give yourself a bit of a wobble. Shake the booty. Feels really good, I'm telling you. And then finally, with your sighs, jump up and down. Again, jumping up and down is great. If you're not necessarily into your jumping, you can just start with a bit of a bounce. And you can hear It helps really push the air out, and you're relaxing your body, you're relaxing your mind, you're starting to be silly, you're starting to think on your feet, which is really important. And I recommend with those sighs, you give yourself a good 5 minutes at least, just enjoying that, deep breathing and having a good, relaxing, cleansing sigh. So that is exercise 1. The next one, this is just another quite standard how criers always start. Every single announcement to get everyone's attention. It literally means like, give me your ears, guys. Listen to me. Come on, listen up. So the idea is that you have to use your imagination a bit here, and you take that word and you have to imagine throwing it up and over. So up and over everybody's heads. And you can try just like, to begin with, I'm just going to throw this up and over my computer screen here. So, oh, yay! And let it go. Let it go. Like, really push it. As it falls, as it drops to the ground or hits the wall and then bounces down, just follow it. Or yay! Oh, there's it's that's really silly. But the further you can throw it, the better. So really get into it. I'm going to try and throw mine into next door's kitchen. They're just over there. I'm not sure they'll really appreciate it, but here we go. Oh, yay! And right now, you see my body's going with that, but I'm not shouting 5 minutes with any of these exercises. And yeah, just have fun with it. The more often you do it, the better. That exercise has been particularly designed to help people project, and you have to get your body into the attitude. So if you lift your chest, if you open up your chest cavity, keep your throat nice and straight, oh, yay! And follow it down, your voice will carry further. And you can experiment with getting louder. You can experiment with throwing a whisper. Oh, yeah. You know, that's fine. Do what you like. Just have fun. Have a good play. Okay. So the next thing is moving towards exercises that are a little bit more specific for shouting. So when you shout, what happens to your vocal cords is they stretch, much in the same way as if you're singing a really, really, really high note. So what I like to do is a thing called vocal slides. So what you're doing is just gradually warming up and stretching those cords so they're not just suddenly going, like giving them a big pull when you shout, which is often why people get really gruff afterwards, because they haven't stretched out their cords enough. And it can also be why if you shout too much, your voice gets stuck in a higher register because you've overstretched your vocal cords and they're finding it difficult to relax. So make sure you relax them afterwards as well. And a good way to do that is to do the slides backwards. So to begin with, for warming up before shouting, we're just going to start nice and low. And just slide up your range. Go as high as you can. It doesn't have to be loud even to begin with. Get louder as you go along, and that will really help build up strength in your vocal cords. And if you make sure you do those slides before you shout, you shouldn't get gruff afterwards. You shouldn't ever hurt when you're shouting as well. And having those pre-stretched cords will really help with that, because if it's hurting, you are doing damage to your cords and you really shouldn't be doing that. So one nice big slide all together. Let's have a go. Low as you can to high as you can, really get your body in it. And if you can, if you want to, try and throw that slide as well, but you don't have to. Please don't feel obliged to do that. It's just another way that you can play with these games. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Imagine doing that in public. It's the best fun though, and nobody really questions you when you're wearing one of these hats if you're doing this sort of thing. So you'll be okay. It does say here that my connection is a bit unstable, so please do message us at unfamiliars.zine or here if you have any questions, or you can always email as well and I can give you a bit more detail at unfamiliars.zine@gmail.com. Okay, so finally, and probably the most useful thing, like if you don't do anything else, if you don't do any of these other silly things, hum. Humming is one of the best things you can do to get your voice warm, ready for shouting. So to begin with, just hum a tune. You can hum it quietly yourself. Make sure you keep it in your mouth, almost like you've got like a flock of bees. That is the wrong term. A swarm of bees in your mouth, and you're really trying to keep them in. And you can like give your face a good massage while you're doing this with your tongue. and then I'm really get into the humming. I like humming shanties, obviously. Having been Falmouth town crier, that's one of my favourite things to do. So I'm going to start with the the Falmouth packet. So you hum your favourite song. I always had a bit of trouble getting those really low registers and like to relax my vocal cords into those. So that's normally where I'll kind of sit and start, especially if I'm doing those vocal slides to help stretch my voice. I don't necessarily need to be humming very high pitched. And the idea is that you hum, you gradually get louder and louder and louder. And then every now and again, you'll just open your mouth and let the sound burst out. You'll let go of some of those Bs, but then you'll shut it again and try and keep those Bs in. So here goes. We'll start quiet. And when you're doing it, if you can get loud enough that your nose almost tickles, that's ideal. So here we go. I'm just going to show you an example of opening and closing your mouth while you're doing that. I'm going to go a bit higher as well. That was a little bit low. See, I told you I had trouble with those. Really silly, really silly. The louder you can get with that as well, you'll notice that that kind of burst comes out more like a shout. So it will get louder and louder and louder. It will get louder. My neighbours love me for this. Sorry, neighbours. They are lovely. They forgive me a lot, believe me. Okay, I'm just going to have a little bit of water. So with that humming and releasing exercise, I recommend you do that for at least 10 minutes. And like I said, if you do nothing else, please do that. And afterwards as well as doing your slides back down, so taking it all the way down, then I really recommend that you just give yourself a nice little relaxing hum afterwards as well. And even if it's just a comforting kind of mix it in with a sigh, and that will help relax your vocal cords back down as well, because you will stress them. You're going to stress them shouting. Shouting is not something we can really sustain. So those are some silly exercises. If you want to jump up and down while you're humming, that also helps, and it will really get you nice and warm. And then, like I said, that stance with your legs nice and wide, getting your center low, and then opening your chest and really pushing that sound out. Imagine sending out over the crowd, because they're going to want to hear you. But those are the exercises. I have given you a little indicator of how to warm down as well. But finally, just as a last little tip, I want to give you, the makeup of the cry. So there is a role for starters. So this is point one. Whether you choose to read or whether you choose to improvise your script, there are events where you will have to stick to a script. If you're announcing the new mayor of the town or giving an edict, then of course you have to read the words as they're supposed to be. Otherwise, there are just some rules that you do. It doesn't help. So even if you have that scroll and you're sort of reading it for reference, put it to one side. I've actually got a little notebook here that I've put down there, and that's just for me to check in with it. But make sure you familiarise yourself with what you're saying enough that you don't need to be looking at this, because if you've got something in the way, you're just going to trap all of that good work that you're trying to do with your shouting. So don't do that. And crier, well, big-ish. And you're supposed to be a spectacle. You're supposed to be seen. So don't shove something in front of your face. Don't cover up your wonderful hat. Keep it to one side. If you need it for reference, great, but I recommend trying to learn it. Or even better, if you're just out and about and telling people the news of the town, improvise. You'll get particular rhythms and even little kind of poems of the news in your head, and give people those. It makes more sense for you. It gives you a better kind of routine with your cry. So I would highly recommend trying that if you're out and about more often than just the odd event. Number two, a lot of people have the idea that actually town criers start off by saying, "Hear ye." No, this is wrong. It's actually a French word, OYEZ. OYEZ. That's the more traditional way to do it, and I quite liked it because it doesn't necessarily have the same kind of, I don't know, people get it. People automatically seem to understand that. So you can say hear ye if you want, but I'd recommend OYE, and so would most of the town criers across the country, I'm sure. The traditional way to end any announcement from a town crier is to shout, "God save the Queen." You can do that, absolutely. She loves a good shout out. Sing happy birthday to her by all means, as loud as you possibly can once you perfect this technique. Twice a year, of course. But when I was in Falmouth, I was shouting for Falmouth. So it seemed a bit silly to dedicate all of my shouts to the Queen, who's lovely. God rest us, God rest. I used to shout at the end of mine, #LoveFalmouth, because that was the hashtag for the town. And that's what I was trying to do, promote that space, enliven that space, and be there for the people of Falmouth. So if you want to shout out, Lynne, love Manningtree, or have a lovely day even, that is absolutely fine. Make it your own. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, there are rules that you can follow, but the best town criers really take those rules longer, I promise. Really important, this one. When you shout at the beginning, you're ringing your bell, shout as loud as you can, that OYE, OYE, and then stop shouting until the end. You bookend your cries with a shout at one end for the OYE, OYE, and a shout at the end for your God Save the Queen, or in my case, it was #LoveFalmouth, like I said. In the middle, just project. Don't stress your voice out, because those announcements you're making might be very long. You don't know. So the best thing to do is switch from your "oh yeah" shout. The big difference in that, in how people will perceive you. They don't really want you shouting in their faces the whole time, but also in looking after your vocal cords, in looking after your voice. And finally, and this is something that it took me a while to learn, but I could probably now do a sonic map of Falmouth if you wanted to shout. Use your environment. I know at the moment we're all stuck indoors and, doing everything we can to try and keep ourselves busy. So ultimately, you're probably going to be on your doorstep shouting. So if there's a wall in front of you, use it. I live on a terrace here in Colchester, and what I would do on this terrace to make that sound carry as far as I possibly could would be to shout my message in one direction and try and, it comes from imagination, remember that lovely up and over, and bounce your voice off at a 45-degree angle from the wall in front of you, because then it will ricochet down the street. Okay, and then I would shout again in the other direction, and that is how it carries. And the other thing is, this is my final point, don't be offended. Don't be offended if anyone comes up to you afterwards and they're like, "I didn't hear a word of what you said, that wasn't very clear." You can enunciate as much as you like, but ultimately, these things, these cries, unless they're very well set up and you've got a wonderfully behaved crowd in front of you, are often disruptions to people's day. And that's exactly what they should be. Like, you're trying to give people the news. You're trying to share things with them, but they might not necessarily be expecting or ready and waiting for you to share that news. And that is fine. So one of the most useful things you can do is your best. Do your best. Shout at the beginning, get everyone's attention as much as possible, project your message, finish with a big shout, a lovely flourish, a nice bow, tip your hat. And then if people come up and ask you what the news is afterwards, give them a big smile and tell them, but maybe a little bit more quietly. Okay, I'm going to end the stream here. If you did miss anything, just get in touch. Like I said, unfamiliars.zine@gmail.com. Please do get in touch with us for questions. You can leave messages underneath the video. That would be wonderful. And Lynne, you're going to do great. I know you are. You're fabulous. I'm so pleased for you, and I'm so pleased for Manningtree. You're going to be a great boost. Good luck shouting on VE Day, and good luck with your journey as a town crier. If you have any requests for other videos, other stories about that experience, it was a great experience, just hit me up. I can't wait to talk to you a bit more about it. And drink plenty of water, keep hydrated, stay indoors, stay safe. Don't forget, this is how I used to finish all of my cries. Don't forget to #LoveFalmouth. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.